It's Tuesday, the 28th of June. Good morning, Europe. A very warm welcome to the programme. Let's begin by looking at our top stories.
G7 leaders pledge their continued support for Kyiv and discuss further sanctions on Moscow, including a potential price capping on oil to reduce Russia's revenues. Leaders from around the world condemn Russia's deadly strike on a shopping centre in Kremenchuk, calling it a war crime as the death toll continues to rise. And UK MPs vote the controversial Northern Ireland Protocol Bill through the first hurdle in the government's design to scrap parts of the post-Brexit trade arrangements.
G7 leaders have pledged support for Ukraine in the war against Russia, keeping sanctions going and sending weapons for as long as it takes. The message of intent delivered to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky via a video link at the summit in Germany was hardly dry on the lips when Moscow's missiles struck a direct hit on a shopping mall in central Ukraine. The deadly strike has caused an international outcry. France's new Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna condemned the targeting of civilians, saying Russia must be held accountable for its actions. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken also said Russia and those responsible for atrocities must be held to account. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson condemned what he called Vladimir Putin's cruelty and barbarism. And G7 host German Chancellor Olaf Scholz had earlier accused Russia of breaking all the rules.
We've all given assurances that we'll continue to support Ukraine in its defence against Russia. What is clear is that this war is a deep breach in international relations. Earlier, I very consciously called this a turning point because of Russia's attack on Ukraine. All the rules, all the agreements that we've made with each other about the way the cooperation of states have been broken, especially the understanding that borders should not be moved by force.
Ganz besonders die Verständigung, dass Grenzen nicht mit Gewalt verschoben werden sollen.
Soldiers worked long into the night trying to clear the steel girders from the destroyed shopping centre in the city of Kremenchuk. The casualty figures following Russia's missile strike remain difficult to determine. At least 16 people have died and dozens more are wounded. Around 1,000 people are estimated to have been inside. Russia says it does not target civilians.
Well, G7 leaders are meeting this morning here in Bavaria for the final day of the summit before they move on to Madrid for the NATO meeting. Very much the clear message over the past few days has been one of unity and one of the importance of defending the European democracy and the global world order, particularly in light of a very heavy bombardment from Russia into centre of Ukraine. G7 leaders heard from Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, yesterday, who demanded much more support, heavy military support, financial support and extra sanctions. The G7 as a group said that they are willing to do whatever it takes to support Ukraine, and they remain unified in that position. We're likely to hear more in relation to what sort of military hardware will emerge from NATO, but certainly optimism coming from the G7 is the possibility of an agreement about a price capping of oil to ensure that there's a reduction in the revenue coming to Russia for its sale of oil. There's also support for further sanctions, the sanctioning of Russian gold, and overall a further positioning from all of the group of seven to say that they're with Ukraine and they will be for the foreseeable future. Shona Murray, Euronews, Bavaria.
NATO hopes to end its upcoming summit in Madrid on a high note. Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has said that the group intends to significantly increase the number of troops in its reaction force, which currently numbers around 40,000.
We will enhance our battle groups in the eastern part of the alliance up to brigade levels. We will transform the NATO response force and increase the number of our high readiness forces to well over 300,000.
The group also expects to resolve issues blocking Sweden and Finland from joining the alliance. Turkey's president will meet his Swedish and Finnish counterparts in Madrid at the start of the summit. They are reportedly going to discuss Turkey's objections for the two to join the group. These include alleged support for Kurdish groups Ankara claims are terrorists.
NATO ittifakı içerisinde ne yapamazlar?
Well, last night, the UK's unilateral attempt to override the Northern Ireland Agreement struck as part of the Brexit deal with the European Union passed its first parliamentary hurdle. At its second reading in the House of Commons, the Conservative Party, which has a working majority, comfortably won, despite having opposition from some of their own MPs, and in particular Theresa May, the former Prime Minister who herself led Brexit negotiations for a number of years. She said that the move would break international law and it would damage the UK's reputation around the world. The Conservative Party, though, were backed by the Northern Ireland Democratic Unionist Party, who are at the moment refusing to form a government in the Northern Ireland Assembly because they want changes to this protocol. But it doesn't mean it's plain sailing. What will happen now is that the bill moves to the House of Lords, the upper house in the British parliamentary system, and there it could face real opposition and could be voted down. It would then go into a process known as ping pong, where it goes back to the House of Commons, it could be voted on again, but then loses again in the Lords, and then the government has to use a special constitutional measure to override the House of Lords and get it passed. But that would mean that it would be delayed by up to around a year, which could mean it could clash with election timing for Boris Johnson. So it doesn't mean yet that this is fully secured. It does mean, however, that the UK is risking its reputation. The EU is saying that this is the wrong thing to do, that this was what was agreed, and it's what keeps the Good Friday peace agreement in place. The British government says, though, that there was always a mechanism in case things didn't work. They said that the fact that the border checks at the customs points are causing real problems with supplies in Northern Ireland. The fact that the unionist community isn't on board, still having the oversight of the ECJ, not being able to control VAT rules is a big problem for them. Vincent McAviney, Euronews, County Monaghan, Ireland.
US basketball star Brittney Griner, who's in detention in Russia on drug charges, will go on criminal trial on July the 1st. Griner is a two-time Olympic gold medalist and a champion in the Women's National Basketball Association. She was detained at Moscow's airport in February after she was allegedly found carrying vape cartridges with cannabis oil in her luggage. The World Food Programme has sent 18 trucks filled with high-energy biscuits to feed people in the country's remote areas devastated by the June 22nd earthquake. Many survivors have yet to be visited by aid groups, which are struggling to reach the afflicted area on rutted roads. There are fears that help will come too late for some in the badly hit provinces of Paktika and Khost.